Why is it that even when your heart is pure and your intentions are woven with kindness, there are those who turn away from you, their eyes shadowed with suspicion or quiet disdain? I have often said that human relationships are not built merely on the surface exchanges of words and gestures, but on the deep, unspoken movements of the psyche. What you call kindness is not always perceived as kindness, because perception itself is filtered through layers of shadow, complexes, and the unhealed wounds within the other person's soul. And so when you meet someone with genuine warmth, your light is cast upon their inner darkness, and many will recoil, not because you have done wrong, but because you have awakened something within them that they are not ready to face. Imagine for a moment that every person you meet is like a mirror that reflects not only who they are, but also who they feel they might be. When you are kind, when you are authentic, you stand as a mirror of their unlived potential, their rejected innocence, or even their buried guilt. This reflection can feel like a silent judgment, even when your heart carries no judgment at all. They look at you and feel their own dissonance. Why do you move with such gentleness when they have armored themselves against the world? Why do you offer compassion when they have only learned to survive by suspicion? In such moments, your very presence becomes an unconscious confrontation, a kind of psychic trigger that awakens both longing and resentment. I have often observed that we despise in others what we have not yet integrated within ourselves. If someone hates your kindness, it is not truly your kindness. They hate it. It's their own inability to be kind without fear of being hurt, exploited, or rejected. It is their unhealed wound that perceives your light as a threat. It is as if your kindness stands at the doorway of their psyche, whispering of a forgotten truth, and they slam the door shut because the truth is too heavy to bear. This is why the path of authentic living, the path of individuation, can feel so lonely. When you are true to your essence, when you choose the higher path of sincerity and compassion, you begin to exist outside the collective masks that most people wear. Society teaches people to conform, to protect their egos, to wear a persona that shields them from the unpredictable currents of life. But when you walk without such armor, your presence disrupts their carefully constructed illusions. To them, you are like a dream that they cannot quite understand, a dream that both fascinates and terrifies. You must understand that the psyche is not merely rational. It is a landscape of symbols, shadows, and archetypes that move with an energy older than time. When someone meets you, they are not only meeting you as an individual, they are meeting every projection, every unresolved story they carry within. If they have known betrayal, your kindness might remind them of the trust they once gave and lost. If they have lived in fear, your gentleness might feel suspicious, as if no one could possibly be this genuine without a hidden motive. This is the great paradox. When you are most aligned with your inner truth, you will be misunderstood by those who have not yet faced theirs. This is not a failure on your part. It is simply the way the psyche reacts to light when it has lived too long in shadow. Remember, the shadow is not evil. It is merely the part of the self that has been forgotten, rejected, or repressed. And so, when your light shines, the shadow trembles It does not know how to dance with such illumination. I recall many dreams where figures of kindness appeared as both saviors and threats. One dreamer once told me of a radiant figure dressed in white who entered a darkened room, and the dreamer's first impulse was to run. Why? Because the light revealed everything hidden in the corners of that room, every secret, every suppressed memory. This is the same response some people have toward you. Your authenticity exposes the artificiality in others. Your open heart reminds them of their own closed doors. It is easier for them to reject you than to open those doors themselves. But do not think that this rejection means you are unworthy. It is, in fact, a sign that you are carrying something powerful. Your presence alone can stir the unconscious, and not everyone is ready for that awakening. You might not even intend to challenge them, but the soul recognizes what the ego cannot comprehend. What then should you do? Should you dim your light so that others feel comfortable? Should you hide your kindness to avoid rejection? No, for this would be a betrayal of the self. Your task is not to make everyone like you. Your task is to remain true to the essence that calls you forward. Even if it means walking alone at times. The road of individuation is not the road of popularity, it is the road of depth, meaning and integration. It requires the courage to accept that not everyone will understand your heart, and that is not your burden to carry. Let us look deeper into why people react so strongly to what is good. Within each person lives a tension between the persona, the mask we show the world, and the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny. When you live with kindness, you are refusing to wear the mask that most people rely upon. You are saying through your actions, I am willing to be seen as I am, with all my flaws and all my love. This nakedness of spirit is rare, and rare things are often mistrusted. Think of the archetype of the wounded healer. This figure, present in mythologies across cultures, represents the one who has suffered and through suffering has found the capacity to heal others. But not everyone wants to be healed. Some cling to their wounds because those wounds define them, give them an identity. When you approach with love, they fear losing that identity. Your kindness feels like a hand pulling them into unknown waters, and the unknown is always frightening. The collective unconscious, which binds all humanity, is filled with symbols of light and darkness, of heroes and tricksters, of saviors and destroyers. Sometimes, when you are kind, others unconsciously place you into these archetypal roles. They might see you as the savior, but if they do not feel ready to be saved, they will turn on you, seeing you instead as a deceiver. This is not about you. It is about the stories they are living inside, the myths they have unconsciously chosen. The deeper truth is this kindness is a force of transformation. It is not a weak or passive trait. It is profoundly disruptive to the egoic world order. True kindness requires strength because it often invites misunderstanding. It requires resilience because it calls you to stand firm in your own being. Even when that being is misinterpreted, I will tell you a story from my own studies. There was once a man who dreamed of walking through a great forest. And in this forest, he encountered an old hermit who offered him a cup of clear water. The man hesitated, suspicious of this simple gift. In waking life, this man was surrounded by people who saw generosity as a transaction, not a truth. His dream revealed that his psyche had lost the ability to trust purity. How many people do you know who are like this man? When they meet someone who is genuinely kind, they search for the hidden price. The invisible contract. They cannot accept that kindness might exist simply for its own sake. You must realize that when people dislike you despite your kindness, they are not truly seeing you. They are seeing the reflection of their own fears, their own wounds. In a way, you have become a screen upon which their unconscious projections are cast. This is why individuation is such a radical process. It calls us to withdraw our projections, to face the parts of ourselves we have placed on others. Few are willing to do this work. Kindness, when it is authentic, does not seek validation. It does not beg to be liked. It simply flows like a river that knows its own course. You are that river. Some will drink from your waters with gratitude, while others will throw stones into your current, trying to disrupt its flow. Neither response should change the essence of who you are. There is, within the human heart, a deep longing to be seen, but often we seek to be seen by those who are blind to themselves. This is why their judgment stings so much. Yet, if you could look with the eyes of the soul, you would see that their rejection is not truly aimed at you. It is aimed at the part of themselves they fear. The task, then, is to hold your ground, to know that your worth does not depend on their acceptance. When you begin to understand the architecture of the psyche, you realize that human interactions are rarely about the present moment. They are echoes of the past, reverberations of old wounds, unresolved conflicts, forgotten desires, and ancestral stories buried deep within the unconscious. A person's reaction to your kindness is often not a response to you, but to the memory of someone who once offered love only to take it away, or to the fear that accepting warmth will lead to disappointment. You become a living symbol, a carrier of their old myths, and they respond not to reality, but to the projection of their own inner world. This is why I have always said that the unconscious is not just personal, it is collective. In every face you see, you are also meeting something much larger: generational pain, cultural patterns, archetypal battles between light and dark. When you are truly kind, you represent the archetype of the healer, the redeemer, or even the innocent child. And these archetypes do not merely inspire admiration, they also awaken resistance, for the shadow fears redemption. It fears the mirror that shows what has been neglected. Some people do not wish to be reminded of their own buried innocence, because that innocence was wounded long ago, and to look at it again would mean feeling that pain. Think of the dream motif of the stranger who offers a gift. In mythology, this stranger is often mistrusted. Why? Because the gift requires the receiver to change, to grow, to face something unknown. In many cultures, kindness is tied to obligation. To accept kindness means to accept a relationship, a did, a new path. And so, when you offer genuine care, some will reject it simply because they fear what it will awaken in them, a vulnerability they are not prepared to feel. Let me tell you something that many find difficult to accept. The more authentic you become, the fewer people will truly understand you. This is not a flaw. It is an initiation. Authenticity is the death of the false self, the persona, and most people are deeply invested in maintaining their masks. When you live without a mask, you reveal that masks are unnecessary, and this threatens the fragile structures others have built to survive. They may dislike you simply because you remind them that they too could be free if only they had the courage to face their shadow. There is a story in one of my patients' dreams that I find particularly striking. She dreamed she was in a great cathedral filled with people wearing heavy, ornate masks. She herself wore none, and as she walked down the aisle, she felt their eyes turn toward her with quiet hostility. The masks were beautiful but lifeless, like frozen smiles hiding hollow eyes. She told me, I felt like I was wrong, like I should have worn one too. And I said, no, you are not wrong. You are awake. This is how it feels to walk through life with kindness and sincerity in a world addicted to appearances. Your very being is an unmasking, and unmasking is rarely welcomed. Do not mistake this dislike for failure. It is, in fact, a sign that you are aligned with the deeper currents of the soul. If you were merely pleasing everyone, you would not be living as yourself. You would be living as a reflection of their expectations. But when you walk the path of individuation, you are called to embody your own truth, even when that truth stands alone. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This privilege is also a burden, for it requires a willingness to endure misunderstanding, rejection, and even hostility. Now, let us look at the inner mechanics of why kindness can be so disruptive. Kindness, when authentic, flows from a place of wholeness. It is not about seeking approval or manipulation. It is the natural radiance of a soul that has touched its own depths. But most people have not touched their depths. They live on the surface, surviving through roles and defenses. When they encounter someone who is truly kind, they feel this difference instinctively. It is as if a chord is struck within them that says, this is real, and I am not living real. That dissonance can turn into discomfort, which then becomes dislike. Kindness is also an unspoken challenge to the power dynamics of the ego. The ego thrives on competition, on proving itself stronger or better, but kindness has no need for such games. It stands outside of them. To an ego that lives in constant defense, this can feel like an attack, as though you are dismantling the very rules it depends upon. Imagine someone who has always lived in a room with walls painted black. When you enter with a candle, you do not mean harm, but the candle changes everything. The black walls are revealed as dusty and cracked. The person might blow out your candle, not because it is wrong, but because the light has revealed too much. I want you to see that even in their dislike, People are teaching you something profound about the human soul. They show you the places where fear still rules, where the shadow still hides, where love has been distorted by pain. And this is not only true of others, it is true of you as well. For every person who dislikes you, there is a part of yourself that you too may dislike. The external rejection mirrors the internal struggle. This is why individuation is not about fixing others, but about integrating your own shadow, so that the opinions of others no longer control your self-worth. There is an alchemical truth hidden here. What others reject in you is often the very thing you are called to embody with greater strength. If your kindness is met with suspicion, then the task is not to abandon kindness, but to deepen it, to root it in wisdom and boundaries, so that it cannot be shaken by misunderstanding. Remember that kindness does not mean weakness. It does not mean allowing yourself to be trampled. True kindness is fierce in its clarity. It knows where to give and where to withhold, where to stand firm and where to flow. In the unconscious, there's an archetype I call the shadowed king or dark ruler. This figure fears the presence of the true, the gentle, and the pure, because these qualities threaten his reign in the lives of many. The ego plays this role. It rules with control and suspicion, keeping the person from the vulnerability that leads to transformation. When you approach with kindness, you are like the traveler who enters the king's court with nothing but an open heart. The king mocks you, distrusts you, perhaps even banishes you, because he senses that your presence could overthrow his rule. But the true kingdom, the soul always remembers you, even when the ego pushes you away. The deeper self knows you are a messenger. Do not be discouraged by these reactions. Instead, see them as signs of the deeper movements of psyche. Every time someone resists your kindness, it means you have touched a nerve, a place where healing is possible but not yet welcomed. And sometimes the seed you plant through a single act of kindness will grow years later, when they are finally ready to face themselves. There is another layer to this mystery, the projection of unworthiness. Many people dislike those who treat them kindly because they do not believe they deserve it. Their inner voice says, "Why is this person kind to me? What do they want? Surely I am not worthy of such treatment." And rather than confront this painful belief, they project it onto you, deciding that you must be false, manipulative, or naive. Your kindness becomes a threat to the story they tell themselves about who they are. To accept your kindness would mean questioning their own self-image. And this can be terrifying. I have seen this dynamic countless times in both life and dreams. A man dreams that a shining figure comes to his door, offering a gift of healing herbs. Instead of welcoming this figure, he slams the door shut, muttering, "I don't trust this." But when we analyze the dream, we see that the shining figure is his own higher self, the part of him that longs to be whole. He rejected not the figure, but himself in life. When someone rejects your kindness, they may simply be rejecting the part of themselves that longs to receive love. And so, what is the path forward? It is to live without attachment to how others perceive you. Do not let the fear of being disliked close your heart. Instead, let their rejection teach you to root your kindness in strength, to cultivate compassion not only for others but for yourself. For self-compassion is the foundation of all true giving. When you are kind to yourself, you do not need others to approve of your kindness. You simply live it as naturally as breathing. There is a profound truth you must carry with you. The world does not always reward purity of heart, nor does it recognize the soul that has worked to become whole. Those who live on the surface of life, caught in the endless dance of masks and pretenses, cannot always understand the language of the heart. They are like travelers who have forgotten their native tongue. When you speak from a place of sincerity, it sounds foreign to them, even threatening. But this misunderstanding does not lessen the value of what you carry. Rather, it confirms that your path is one of depth, one of the inner journey. I have often told my patients that our greatest suffering arises when we try to force others to see us as we truly are. It is natural to want to be understood, to want your kindness to be felt and cherished. Yet, the more you seek this validation, the more you place your soul in the hands of those who may not yet see clearly. It is better then to turn inward, to ask, do I see myself? Do I honor the kindness that flows through me, even when others cannot? For when you truly recognize your own worth, the opinions of others lose their power. The psyche is a labyrinth filled with corridors of memory and hidden chambers of longing. Most people wander these halls blindly, afraid of what they might find if they open certain doors. When you live with kindness and authenticity, it is as though you walk with a lantern, lighting up their corridors without permission. They may not thank you for this. They may even resent you. But the light you bring is not wasted. It plants a seed, a memory of what is possible, and one day they may awaken to that light within themselves. I want you to imagine the shadow not as an enemy, but as a wounded child standing in the dark. This child hides because it believes it is unlovable, unacceptable, too flawed to be seen. When your kindness shines, it calls this child out of hiding, and the child, frightened and defensive, may lash out. That is why people sometimes react with anger or disdain when you offer nothing but warmth. They are not ready to face the forgotten parts of themselves that your presence awakens. To them, your kindness is like a mirror, reflecting the gap between who they are and who they long to be. And this gap can feel unbearable. There is a temptation in moments like these to harden yourself, to let their rejection make you bitter, but do not let the world's misunderstanding corrupt the purity of your gift. Your kindness is not meant to be transactional. It is not meant to win the approval of others. It is an expression of your own soul, a natural overflow of the inner work you have done. To stop being kind because of rejection would be like closing a window, because the wind does not always blow the way you wish. The light must continue to shine, regardless of how it is received in the depths of the collective unconscious. Kindness is not a mere social virtue. It is a force of integration. It draws together the fragmented parts of the psyche, both within yourself and in those around you. But this integration process is uncomfortable. To bring the unconscious into consciousness is to bring what is hidden into the light, and the psyche does not always welcome this illumination. It is easier to remain divided, to keep the wounds untouched, to live in the false comfort of the familiar. Your kindness disrupts this illusion. It says, without words. There is another way, and this other way often feels like a threat to those who have built their lives on denial. I remember a woman who came to me heartbroken that her kindness was always met with indifference or suspicion. Why do they hate me? She asked. All I do is care. And I told her, they do not hate you. They hate the part of themselves they see reflected in you, the part that still longs for love, the part that was betrayed, the part they have buried. She wept, not because this was new information, but because it confirmed a truth she had always sensed. Her suffering was not caused by her kindness, but by her expectation that everyone would welcome it. The path of the heart is not always met with applause. Sometimes it is met with silence or even stones. This is why I speak so often of individuation. To individuate is to free yourself from the collective expectations, the unconscious scripts that dictate how you should live and who you should be. It is to say, I will be kind, not because the world approves, but because it is who I am. In this freedom, you will discover a new strength, a strength that is not shaken by rejection, because it does not seek its validation in the first place. And yet, we must also speak of boundaries. Kindness without boundaries is like water. Without a riverbank, it flows aimlessly, flooding everything, even places it does not belong. If you give endlessly, if you offer your heart without discernment, you will not only be misunderstood, but you will also be drained. True kindness is not about pleasing everyone. It is about living in alignment with your own soul, giving where it is right to give, withholding where it is necessary to protect the sacred core of your being. Imagine a fire. A fire gives warmth and light, but if it spreads uncontrollably, it destroys. Your kindness is like this fire. It must be contained by wisdom, by the ability to discern who is ready to receive it and who is not. This discernment does not make you less kind, it makes you more effective, more powerful. For when you choose consciously where to give your energy, you honor both yourself and the other person. The unconscious is always watching, always responding. When you live with authenticity, the world around you shifts. Some will be drawn to you, feeling the resonance of truth. Others will turn away, unable to face what you represent. Both responses are natural. Do not try to force connection where it cannot exist. Instead, trust the deeper movements of life. Those who are meant to walk with you will find you. Those who are not will fall away. And in this falling away, you are freed to live more fully as yourself. The dislike you encounter is not a condemnation. It is a sign that you are different, that you are living by the laws of the soul rather than the laws of the ego. The ego seeks control, recognition, and power. The soul seeks meaning, connection, and wholeness. These two paths rarely align, and those who live only for the ego will always find the soul's path unsettling. But do not let this unsettle you. You are not here to be liked. You are here to awaken. Awakening is not a comfortable process. It is a tearing away of illusions a confrontation with all that is false. Those who dislike you may, in truth, be unconsciously drawn to you. Their hostility is a mask for their own longing, their own fear of what you awaken within them. In time, some may come to see this, others may not, but this is not your concern. Your task is to live your truth, to let your kindness be the quiet force that shapes the world in ways you cannot always see. There is a subtle but powerful truth I must impress upon you. The more deeply you embody your own nature, the more you will disrupt the unconscious games of those around you. When you live in alignment with your true self, your presence alone can unravel the illusions that others cling to. And many will resist this with all their strength. But this resistance is not your enemy. It is simply the psyche's way of defending itself from what it is not ready to face. You must allow people their timing, their journey. Not everyone is prepared to meet the mirror you hold up to them. And that is not a reflection of your failure. It is a reflection of their current stage of growth. Kindness, true kindness, is not the same as naivety. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment or sacrificing your own soul to be liked. In fact, real kindness requires a tremendous strength because it is rooted in self-awareness. It requires that you see your own shadow clearly, that you understand the darker forces within yourself, so that your kindness is not born of a need to be accepted, but of a deep connection to life itself. When you know your shadow, you no longer give from a place of guilt, fear, or self-denial. You give because you choose to freely, without attachment to how it will be received. In dreams, kindness is often represented as a light or a gift, sometimes as a fountain of water, sometimes as a fire in the darkness. Yet, in these dreams, there are always figures who feel the gift, who hesitate to drink the water or warm themselves by the fire. This is a reflection of the inner tension we all carry. We long for love and connection, yet we are terrified of what true intimacy demands of us. It demands that we drop our masks, that we reveal our vulnerabilities. Many people would rather reject the gift than face the nakedness it brings. You may wonder, then, what is the purpose of being kind in such a world? Why offer your heart when it is so often misunderstood? The answer lies not in the response you receive, but in the alignment of your being. Kindness is not something you do for others alone, it is something you do for yourself. It is the natural expression of a soul that has found meaning in being kind. You are living in harmony with the deeper truths of existence. Whether others understand it or not, you are fulfilling a calling that transcends the fleeting judgments of the ego. This does not mean you must martyr yourself. On the contrary, true kindness often requires stepping back, protecting your energy, and refusing to participate in dynamics that drain or demean you. To be kind does not mean to be endlessly available, it means to be deeply present. But only when your presence serves life rather than diminishes it. You must learn the art of saying no with the same grace with which you say yes. This is the boundary that allows kindness to remain pure rather than becoming self-sacrifice. I will tell you something I have seen over and over again in my work. The people who misunderstand you today may come to understand you years from now. Your kindness may plant seeds that take a long time to grow, Do not expect immediate recognition or gratitude. The unconscious works in mysterious ways, and often its movements are slow, like rivers carving stone. What you offer now may bear fruit long after you have walked away. And you may never even see that fruit, but it is there, quietly shaping the lives you touch. We must also acknowledge that not all dislike is projection. Sometimes people dislike you simply because you remind them of a path they are unwilling to take. You become a symbol of the road not traveled, and they reject you to avoid confronting their own choices. This is part of the human experience. We cannot force anyone to awaken. Awakening is a solitary journey, and each person must come to it in their own time. The more you commit to your own individuation, the less you will need the world's approval. You will find a deeper source of validation, one that comes from within, from the quiet, knowing that you are living in truth. This does not mean you become cold or detached. In fact, it is the opposite. When you no longer need to be liked, you become freer to love. You can give without fear, speak without pretense, and act without the burden of pleasing everyone. This freedom is the essence of the soul's journey. Consider the archetype of the hero. In every myth, the hero sets out on a journey that few understand. He is often mocked, misunderstood, even betrayed by those closest to him. Yet, he continues, because the call within is stronger than the noise outside. You, too, are on such a journey. Your kindness is your sword, your compassion, your shield. But these are not weapons of war, they are instruments of transformation. They do not destroy enemies, they dissolve illusions. And there is something else. Kindness, when lived deeply, has a strange power to reveal hidden truths. It draws out both the best and the worst in people. Some will rise to meet it, inspired by your sincerity. Others will lash out, unable to bear the mirror you hold up. Both responses are valuable, for they show you who is truly aligned with your path. Do not mourn the loss of those who cannot walk with you. Bless them and continue forward. Their path is theirs, yours is yours. I have seen the most profound transformations occur in the moments when someone dares to stay kind. Even in the face of hostility. This does not mean being passive or weak. It means holding your ground with grace, refusing to let bitterness take root. There is a great strength in this. It is the strength of one who knows that the soul's value is not determined by how others react. It is the strength of one who has walked into their own shadow and returned with the light. So, why do people dislike you even when you are kind? Because kindness is not always gentle. It is a force of truth, and truth is unsettling. Your kindness says to the world, there is another way to live, one that is not driven by fear, ego, or deceit. This is a revolutionary message, and revolutions always meet resistance. But if you hold steady, if you continue to walk in truth, you will find that those who are meant to understand you will appear at the right time. The rest are not your concern. Let this be your guiding principle. Remain true to your soul, regardless of the storms that surround you. Do not let rejection make you bitter. And do not let approval make you complacent. Walk the middle path, the path of authenticity. Begin, but be strong. Be open, but be discerning. Trust that your light will find those who are ready to receive it. And for those who are not, let them be. You are not here to fix everyone. You are here to be whole. And in your wholeness, you will naturally illuminate the path for others, whether they thank you or not. The world will not always understand the language of the soul, but that does not mean you must stop speaking it. Even when your kindness is met with silence, a suspicion or hostility, know that you are playing a role in the great unfolding of consciousness. You are part of a much larger story, one that spans generations, lifetimes, and archetypes older than memory. Every act of kindness, no matter how small or unacknowledged, is a thread in this vast tapestry. And so I leave you with this. Do not measure your life by how many people like you, but by how deeply you have lived in alignment with your truth. Do not let the shadow of another dim your light. You are here to become whole, and wholeness does not require universal approval. It requires courage, patience, and a willingness to walk alone when necessary. Trust this process. Trust yourself, for in the end, it is not the opinions of others that will matter, but the depth with which you have met your own soul